Yes.
XML HTTP request response. Will it be cached or not cached?
Good question. I don't know. Yeah, I think that it would. Like if you make a network request to a URL, and that URL has already been defined in the app cache, I think that would work, but I'm not positive.
You should ask Paul next week because he'll have an answer for it.
Yeah. Paul's on the speakers next week.
Yes, yeah. Paul is giving our HTML5 talk next week at the camp house, so that should be awesome. Yes.
I was wondering if this question is relevant to Kennish, right? Many of these tools are design time tools, I believe. They're not one-time tools. Second, if it's a design time tools, do you think these tools can plug into your favorite object like Behavior or the question is very relevant?
Yeah, that's a cool question. So we are actually working. We're in the pretty preliminary stages, but we're working on an Eclipse integration. So you can get this in Eclipse. It's actually out there live on the web if you want to do some searching for it. It's very early stage, so I hear that it doesn't. I'm not a big Eclipse user, but I hear that it's not working that great yet, but it's coming along. We're also working on some remote debugging stuff. What was that? Not that I know of. Sorry. But I disagree that it's strictly design time profiling, though. We also have the page speed Chrome extension, which I'm not going to show here, but Steve will probably talk a bunch about next week at the camp out, which lets you dive in even more on what's making your page fast or more likely slow. Okay, so quickly, just want to show the Web SQL database view here. So you can see now that we're on a page that has actually created databases, we have some info in this under this category. So we have I think a blank test database here, but we also have this to-do list, which is currently unpopulated. But I'm going to add a to-do list item here. And when I refresh this view, it should now be populated in this table. We also have a command line interface, which does auto-completing. So I guess this is the first look at auto-completing that I'm showing here. So I can just do select star from to-do, and that'll give me a list. If I add more stuff in here.
How did you get to that select state?
I typed it.
Where?
Oh, what version of Chrome are you using? Do you have a database?
Yeah, I have a database. It's probably the used standard Chrome. I mean, it's not a special. I just downloaded it today.
Oh, so stable. I think this is still in the stable version.
But how did you get to the prompt? Select star?
Oh, I just, so here's the table. I clicked on this big database icon. So I'm going to run this query again now that I have 2 items in there. And now you'll see I get 2 results back in my set here. Okay, moving on to the next tool. So if you remember from...
About your database, that is, in terms of you have select star, exactly how much of SQL is inside there that you project running?
So this implements the Web SQL database API, which is a spec. I think it's under the W3.
It's basically SQLite.
Yes, SQLite. Okay, so this next tab, let me actually close this and go back to my chromium.org page. So next I'm going to show this audits tab, which if you remember back to my timeline, audits is the newest tool that we've added. And essentially we have, it's a tool for doing sort of sanity checks on your page. We have a rules engine that lives under the hood of this thing. And we've currently created a couple sets of rules. So we have rules for here, network utilization and web page performance. But we've made this kind of extensible rules engine, which can other rule sets can be plugged into. And we're especially interested in an outside contribution to this. For example, it might be really useful to have a mobile design, a mobile web design expert create a set of rules for making pages that work well under mobile devices, and you'd run those against your page. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this for our page here. And it's going to give me a list of errors and warnings about doing a better job of caching and that sort of thing. So you can see this first rule here. Let's pop this open. This first error here. It's saying that I'm not setting a cache header. I should be more aggressive about my caching. There's a warning in here about setting sizes for your images. So these are actually things that might not necessarily be a problem in Google Chrome. For example, Google Chrome might be more aggressive about caching your resources, even if you don't set these headers. But they, it's sort of cross-browser suggestions. So these are things that might improve your app, not just in Chrome, but across the web.
You say cross-browser suggestions,
Well, so it's not actually, it's a set of rules, right? So, ultimately, we just have these 2 rule sets in there, but we want to have lots of rule sets. And some of our stuff is just, generic, like, checking for headers that in the response from the resources. So it's not stuff that's specific only to Chrome.
I have a really dumb question. Is there any way you can control the font size inside of the tools area?
There is in some cases, but it also will do quirky things with the layout. So for example, I can well,
when I tried this resize, it just resized the window.
Yeah, so that's what it's doing here. On some of the panels it'll work. For example, the console, which I'm going to show next, I can make this well, if I undock it, I can make this font bigger, and it'll actually work right.
Okay.
Actually, let me go back to auditing. Oh, there we. Well, no, that doesn't work. It's just
okay.
Some of the panels work okay. Some of them don't.
So how do we report feature enhancement requests?
My last slide, I have a place to report bugs, and we're definitely interested in bugs and feature requests.
I mean, it's okay right now, but you have to do what you're doing.
Yeah, that's why I said at the beginning, if you're in the back, you might want to come forward, because on some of these panels I can't make the font bigger. I think it's a very reasonable request though. And that actually all this stuff that I'm showing here, the front end of the developer tools, is all implemented. Actually, it might be surprising in HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So it theoretically should be not that difficult for us to enable these fonts to be made bigger and smaller. Theoretically.
It's interesting. It says in Google Analytics JavaScript, it says the file cacheable resource not short of
Where do you see this one?
The second one, the one with GA.js, which is like Google Analytics JavaScript. The second one, GA.js.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, you can actually run this against Google.com, for instance, which is probably the most optimized page on the web, and you'll still get some errors. There are cases where the rules might not be doing that good of a job, though. For example, there might be stuff that's getting, might tell you, oh, you're only using 80% of your style rules. But it might be because you're lazy loading elements and you're actually using the other stuff later. So this is a new tool. It's not necessarily perfect, but it's very possible that this ga.js file is perfectly optimized. Is there a question now?
Just a comment. We could probably field Van's request by letting us do a right click here and say inspect again.
Wait, sorry.
In the tools.
Yes. So inspect the inspector. Yeah. You can. I mean, all this code is open source, so you could actually go in and look at the code that's. And if you're very enterprising, go ahead and actually fix it for us. All right. So This is not the view that I want. I'm going to close this. All right, I'm going